Welcome back, Guardians. It is I, Jurio11, Lore Keeper Extraordinaire, with my co-host here.
Salem, greetings every Cabal, Elixni, or alien species alike.
And welcome back to the Destiny Lore Emissary Logs, where we discuss the history, culture, science of our universe. That is the Destiny universe. And today, we have a very interesting episode.
Wish
Viewer
dragons.
mine. Yes, we are talking about the Ahamkara. We're going to call this log Podcast Mine. Or the
We've all
podcast
had our fair
episode.
share of Ahamkara. We've probably encountered one. Or their bones.
Yes, Ahamkara have littered themselves through our universe and through the cultures of many species. So we will be discussing Ahamkara, how they work, notable members of the species, and their current status. So anyways, let us get right into the topic. So,
This is going to be fun.
yes, very fun. So, what is an Ahamkara? Ahamkara, also known to some as wish dragons, are paracausal creatures. Now, when I say paracausal, some people might not know what that is. Paracausality is the ability to break or to be above causality, which best way I can describe what causality would be, gravity, time, space, physics. All of those science terms fall under causality. Paracausality is pretty much breaking the laws of time, physics, space, gravity. Beings like the Guardians, the Witness, and even to some extent the Nine are all instances of paracausal beings. Ahamkara are also paracausal. Now, Ahamkara have a original form, very big and very monstrous, but they have quite a large plethora of abilities, one of which being the ability to shapeshift. There have been countless documentations of them taking various forms, from old medieval dragons from old Earth culture, all the way up to and including human beings like an old man or an old woman. Now, this is done at their expense and typically done to mess with the people who they're interacting with. That being said, not all Ahamkara will take, the form of beings and will just prefer to stick as they are, which tends to present itself as a monstrous creature of large size. Their heads tend to have mandibles that can expand outwards to show their many eyes, and their mouth. They have been known to... They don't have wings like other dragons, but they do have... They tend to be not bipedal, but quadrupedal, so they walk on four legs. They have weird tentacle appendages.
We're talking about the average Ahamkara?
This is the original.
I can tell.
So this is the original Ahamkara shape. This is their original form.
I see.
Now, once again, they can shapeshift. So an Ahamkara can look like just about anything they wish to look like. But this is the description that I'm giving, is the appearance that they look like when they are in their original form, I guess. So very, very fascinating along that. But what makes them... This ability, the shapeshift, is not their only ability. But before we get to that ability, do you have any comments there, Salem?
Well, let's see. When it comes to Ahamkara, the only thing I could never really grasp is, can an Ahamkara really permanently die? Because from what I can tell, when not we, but when the Guardian was helping Mara collect Riven's somehow new batch of eggs, we still saw Riven in some type of way. I don't know exactly where the Awoken pulled her from. And it really makes me wonder. If she says we'll meet again, is this really the end for the Ahamkara?
That is a very interesting point, and we can discuss that ability before we get to their main ability real quick. So, the other understanding of the other major ability of the Ahamkara, outside of the one we're going to discuss in a bit, is their ability to transcend death itself. When an Ahamkara dies, it doesn't really die. It just takes on a different form. In most cases, it takes on the form of its bones. Ahamkara bones still hold the Ahamkara within and can, in fact, still, well, grant wishes. So it's exceedingly dangerous for Guardians to wield any weaponry or armor that may be adorned with this with the bones, because it's been noted that the bones will whisper things to said wielder, implying them to grant wishes, to ask for wishes, and that they will be granted, and that they wish to escape. Whatever that may mean. But the physical body death of an Ahamkara does not imply the actual death of the being itself. Now, when it pertains to Riven, a mere year or two ago, probably 2 years by this point, the Awoken were using very specialized abilities and magic themselves to summon a projection of Riven herself, which was certainly powerful, and I wish I had taken more notes at that time. But, so that's how we were able to interact with Riven. Even after the Riven's defeat at the hands of the Young Wolf and their compatriots, once again, it does not mean the death of Riven herself. Her consciousness is still out there. It's still out in the proverbial ether, as it were. And will likely go on. Because that's just how Ahamkara operate. Now, this ability, while frightening, the fact that you can't truly kill them, just change their state of being, is not their most terrifying ability. As if shape-shifting and never really truly dying isn't scary enough, they have one more ability, their main ability, which is wholly more terrifying if you understand how it works. And that is the ability to grant wishes. Ahamkara are known as wish dragons for a reason, but their wish-granting capabilities are certainly different than other instances in Old Earth culture, for example. In Old Earth tradition, or Old Earth customs or mythology, beings like genies can grant wishes to those who wish upon them, with little to no negative consequence. Meanwhile, other things like a monkey's paw can also grant wishes with the side effects of negative consequences. Now, as it pertains to wish dragons, specifically the Ahamkara, Ahamkara can grant a wish, whether it be spoken verbally or by simply gazing into the soul of that who is wishing or in contact with them. They can purely just detect what you desire most and use something known as the Anthem Athenaeum. So, the Anthem Athenaeum is this desire to change the universe to fit one's purpose, aka wishing on something and changing physical reality to make sure that wish comes true.
That kind of sounds like something Callus would do.
It's certainly something that I wouldn't say that Callus would do so, but he would definitely take abuse of Anthem Athenaeum. And perhaps I'm stating that wrong. I'm just trying to, I might be stating that word wrong, but we're just going to go on with it, because, that's what I'm going to call it. Anthem Athenaeum. Anyways, so when an Ahamkara makes a wish with an individual, it's exceedingly complex and complicated for just, when people think of old Earth like genies, it's a very simple process. You talk to the genie, you make the wish, he makes the wish, la-di-da, there you go. Whereas with Ahamkara, it's more so chaotic and very, very much contracts and stuff. So let me try to give an example. Let us say that I was in the same room as an Ahamkara, and I had a wish, and my wish was to learn more about the universe that we inhabit, so that I can share that knowledge with others. And the Ahamkara would first approach me and see me as a partner, which is a weird way of putting it, but it would see me as a wishing partner, and would then use the wish granting process as a bargain of sorts. Now, it would only be able to, even if I didn't personally state to the Ahamkara that I wish to obtain more knowledge, it could peer into my soul, as it were. And that's more so a metaphorical way of putting it. We don't know how exactly they are able to glean that information out of somebody, but we're going to go with that information because it's just the one that makes the most sense to the average person or guardian or cabal or elixir. They peer into one's soul and are able to ascertain what is most desired. The Ahamkara, in turn, would grant the wish. Now, it has been known that in nonverbal wish granting, the Ahamkara's eye will sparkle or twinkle when a wish has been granted. Which is certainly an interesting way of projecting, like, hey, I just granted your wish. Now, using paracausality to alter reality with something known as quantum chaos, which is, I know it's a very strange term, but that is what it's described as. It uses quantum chaos and paracausality to warp reality to make it so instead of just immediately granting me the ultimate knowledge over the universe, it would shift reality itself using quantum chaos and paracausality to shift it so I would eventually learn secrets of the universe, whether that be me somewhere down the line gaining a book or peering into something that gives me ultimate knowledge. So instead of it being like wish granted, snap your fingers, your wish is now like right in front of you, it's more like I'm shifting reality to make it so that your desire will eventually be obtained. Whether that desire is obtained immediately or somewhere down the road is, unclear, but I'm warping reality itself, which is certainly terrifying that a being like an Ahamkara is able to warp reality in such a way. There are very few beings that are able to manipulate the universe itself. whether it be us or the Witness or the Nine. And a being like an Ahamkara having that ability is more dangerous than others because the second part to their wish magic, which is their desire to feed not specifically on the wish, but on the negative consequence. Because when you make a wish with an Ahamkara, or when it grants a wish, it is always double-sided. It will always come to bite you in the ass.
Remind me to never wish on an Ahamkara then.
Yes, absolutely. It has been advised by the Vanguard to, if an Ahamkara was ever interacted with, to not make a deal with it. In fact, it was advised to just not to keep interactions with Ahamkara to a minimum. Because
That actually makes me wonder what happened to Riven's children then.
And we will get to the current state of the Ahamkara in due time.
Interesting.
But let's get back to the wish magic, because this is certainly the most interesting part and something that I feel that many Guardians don't quite understand completely. Now, here's the thing with their wish magic when it pertains to negative consequence. Ahamkaras, because they're paracausal, do not need physical matter to sustain themselves. They do not drink, they do not eat. Their food and nourishment comes from feeding upon the negative after effects of their wishes, or their contracts, as they like to, their bargaining contracts, as they like to put it. So the more that contract is twisted, the more nourishment they get from the wish itself. So, in this case, in the example that I used before, the Ahamkara that I would have hypothetically be interacting with would warp reality to make it so that later down the line I would gain ultimate knowledge over the universe. To warp it into something negative, they might make it so that me learning that knowledge comes at a cost, whether that be my sanity, losing people who I love, losing myself to the knowledge and becoming evil, but it always twists to something negative. Without a doubt, with no way of reversing it. Because that's what they feed off of. Now, here's the...
Dorio, I want to ask something. Can I give you a small hypothetical for this situation?
Sure. Shoot.
So, when it comes to wish dragons, they grant the desire and twist it in some kind of way. So, I want to put a small hypothetical, and I want you to tell me how that could be twisted or something weird entirely. If someone his desire is to be romantically involved with someone, how would an Ahamkara grant that wish and twist it?
So, Ahamkara. So, if somebody wished to be romantically involved with somebody, and a Ahamkara were to be asked this question, or an Ahamkara were to glean this, they would warp reality itself in order to ensure that this would occur. But obviously, there would be consequences. And there could be various different ways that this could consequence. Perhaps you and your partner would eventually fall in love, but one of you dies. Or the love becomes toxic, or you would have to sacrifice your life. And I mean that more metaphorically, not physically, but like all your friends abandon you, or you go through terrible hardship in order to obtain that love. For an Ahamkara, the more brutal and the more backhanded the negative effect, the more nourishment they get from it. So, in most cases, they go for the killing blow, where typically, if you wish upon an Ahamkara, it's probably not only going to bite you in the ass, but it's going to kill you. So, if
Interesting.
I were an
I'll keep
Ahamkara,
that in mind next time I see an Ahamkara bone.
if I were an Ahamkara and you wish to be romantically involved with somebody, I would probably do something along the lines of you guys eventually falling in love, but one of you or both of you died. So, yeah, you did find love, and you were able to love somebody, but it was not for very long, and now you have more pain than when you started. Now, this is, think of this more like, and here's a good way to put this, the negative feedback or the negative consequences. When an Ahamkara feeds on that, it's more like getting a full portion, like a big meal, 3 meals a day, big portion. The thing with wish dragons is they don't necessarily, it was recently discovered within the last 2 years, wish dragons do not necessarily need to have that negative consequence. Now, this is only exhibited by one known Ahamkara, an Ahamkara that humanity has no personal or first-hand interaction with, because by the time that we discovered his existence, he was dead. That being stated, we were able to glean a little bit into his knowledge and into his way of thinking, and it was discovered that this particular Ahamkara, by the name of Taranis, who we will go over more of soon, was able to grant wishes without negative consequence. Now, in doing so, he practically starved himself a little bit because he wasn't getting the full portion, but that's because he wasn't applying the negative side effect. So he was relatively weaker in comparison to other Ahamkara, but the positive, I guess, was that anybody whose wish he granted never felt negative side effects, which is certainly, for a very long time, we always thought that it was always negative. 2 years ago, that fundamental aspect of wish magic and how it operates was completely shattered. Now we just know that applying that negative consequence onto your wish just is more nourishment for the Ahamkara itself versus not doing it, not receiving as much nourishment. Very, very, very fascinating in terms of when it comes to that aspect of wish dragons. Now, do you have any comments before we go over the next section, which we are going to discuss the history of the Ahamkaras, because their history is quite interesting, and the amount of species and history that they've actually impacted was certainly extensive.
Well, I guess you could say I have two. One, do Ahamkara also feed off each other?
So we will get to that when we discuss Taranis. So after we go over the history, we are going to go over notable members of the Ahamkara, and Taranis is certainly one of them. So we will be going over him and Riven and their relationship. But short answer for now: yes, they can feed off of each other's wishes.
Okay, then I guess the last question I have for now is, when it comes to Ahamkara in general, do they have like a limit on how many wishes they can grant in a day? Do they
No. They have no limits.
Does their hunger ever be fulfilled?
Their hunger is fulfilled, but like any predator, because that's a good way to view the Ahamkaras as predators, they will take any opportunity to feast that they can. Not to say that they need to feed like that after a certain amount of time, but it's opportunistic for them. Less so desperation or control.
And what happens when they don't have a food source?
they migrate to places where they can have a food source.
Well, hypothetically, let's say there isn't one. Then what happens?
Very interesting point, and I guess I don't know the answer to that. I know when Ahamkaras feed off of each other, it's not necessarily a sustainable way to live.
It's like, do they just dissipate or do they shrivel away?
It's once again, it's more like it's like eating. It's the same way that it has the same effect of like. How do I explain this? It's like a weaker form of nourishment. At least that's from what I can glean. But it's certainly.
I wonder why the witness never took advantage of these creatures.
Once again, I think it's because he understood that no matter how he would like to make wishes upon them, they're always going to come.
And bring consequences tenfold.
Right. So it's certainly interesting. And there's one more thing I should discuss real quick. And I know you brought up feeding off of each other. Ahamkara are technically able to feed off of their own wishes. But this practice is lethal. When a Ahamkara wishes upon itself and grants its own wish, it's pretty much feeding off of itself, and thus leading to death. So, for an Ahamkara to wish upon itself, it has to be desperate, or it has to desperate, yeah. It has to be desperate. And there is an instance of an Ahamkara eating itself. And we will get to that. But before we do, we're going to jump slightly, when it comes to topics, to the history of the Ahamkara. So, let's start at the first known recorded instance of Ahamkara that's official. There are mentions in a lore book known as the Unveiling of worms and insects escaping the Black Garden, and this is more metaphorical than anything else. And people have the idea that this could mean a metaphorical instance of like, hey, the worms that escaped the worms and the insects that escaped could have been the Ahamkara and the worm gods. But this is more so speculative and metaphorical, and on top of that, the Unveiling book should not be trusted. It is not necessarily from a reputable source. That being said, we do have official named confirmation of their existence. Specifically, the first time in the history of our universe of their existence being known was the Books of Sorrow. Specifically, when the Hive encountered a group known as the Harmony. For those who don't remember, and for those who did not watch our episode on the Osmium Legacy, heavily recommend you go watch that. But if you didn't, I will give a brief explanation of what the Harmony is. The Harmony was a species that was gifted by the Traveler's Light. Their system, their solar system, was placed so perfectly around a black hole that created two accretion disks, pillars of pure light. This species also encountered and had interacted with the Ahamkara for some time. Whether this started when the Traveler arrived or even before so is unclear, but nevertheless, when the Hive encountered the Harmony, they themselves discovered the existence of the Ahamkara. It was certainly interesting to see them appear this early. And while the Hive were very cautious of the Ahamkara, they notably... When the Hive arrived in their system and encountered the Ahamkara, they initially wanted to imprison the Ahamkara and use their magic. But somehow they were able to escape. So they were able to escape death, unlike the Harmony who interacted with them before. Now, apparently there were bones in the possession of the Harmony, and then after the Harmony's destruction as a civilization, said bones were recovered by another civilization, more specifically an empire. And if you've seen our other episodes, specifically on the rise of Callus, you would know that this bone, one of the bones of the Ahamkara, somehow, some way, got stolen and procured by one Emperor Callus, who held this bone in his hand at the fall of his own empire. Or his rule, I should say. Do you have any comments on that, Salem?
Well, surprisingly, I do not.
I mean, it's certainly interesting that the Cabal have actually encountered, in a sense, Ahamkara before humanity ever.
I personally, growing up on Toro Bottle, I've never seen a physical being of an Ahamkara. I mean, I thought Leviathans were when I was little, but I was very clueless as a child, so I never understood that a land whale wasn't exactly a intimidating wish dragon.
Right. Now, granted, it appears through... Ooh. Feedback there. Sorry.
I am so sorry about that.
All good. Granted, it's very unlikely that the Cabal as an empire knew of the existence of Ahamkara. From what I can glean, the only people who might have known the power of that bone was Callus himself.
Most likely, yes,
and
Callus.
Keitel. And Keitel knew because Callus told her.
Yes, and also, nowadays, she already has plans just in case for another great Ahamkara hunt.
Right, and we will get to that very shortly. Now, after the brief appearance in Cabal's history, more specifically Emperor Callus's history, there's a giant gap. My guess is that the Ahamkara migrate from system to system in order to find those to feed on. And eventually, the Ahamkara would make their way to our soul system. Now, if you ask the Awoken and the Awoken people, they will say that they were the ones who encountered the Ahamkara first. This is not correct. According to the data and the logs that we know of, specifically Cade 6, before he was the Hunter Vanguard and before he was even a Guardian, it appears that the Ahamkara showed up in the system not long after the Traveler's first appearance in the system on Mars. They were described as Neo-life, which is certainly an interesting way to put it. And it appears that through Cade's old Treasure Island book, which is a great gleam of knowledge into Cade's history before he became a Guardian and before the collapse itself, it appears that the Ahamkara were being studied by Golden Age scientists at the Ishtar Academy. Which is certainly interesting. Now, in contemporary times, or at least after the collapse, the next civilization, or the next group of beings outside of just Golden Age humanity to interact with them, would in turn be the Awoken, who certainly would have their very deep and also damaging relationship with the Ahamkara. Specifically one known Ahamkara, but we will get to her in a bit. Now, when the Dreaming City was founded by the Awoken people, the Ahamkara lived in the Dreaming City with the Awoken. Most of the Ahamkara lived in a neutral kind of peace with the Awoken people, with notable exceptions, and we'll get to one right now. There was a very terrible incident, and I would go as far as to say an atrocity committed by a male Ahamkara by the name of Azarim. Azarim lived in the Dreaming City, as most of the other Ahamkaras did, for a time. And unfortunately for the Awoken, Azarim was different than other Ahamkaras. Ahamkaras, while feeding off of negative consequences for wishes, they're not inherently evil. That's just their nature. It's like trying to blame a lion for killing a gazelle. At least that's what I've been gleaned from Golden Age knowledge, or at least that phrase. But it's as if people getting mad at a lion, or you don't call a lion evil for killing a gazelle to feed. You don't call it that. You just call that nature. It's nature. It's fulfilling its nature. Now, that's the same way with the Ahamkaras, specifically with their wish magic. They're not applying negative consequences because they're evil. They're just doing it for nourishment. Azarim is an exception. Azarim was cruel and sadistic, and he enjoyed killing. And he was eventually barred from the Dreaming City itself.
So, as the Guardians put it, he did it for the love of the game.
Correct. He was evil and cruel and sadistic for the love of the game. He was actually banned from the Dreaming City after committing some heinous crimes, but we will go over his most heinous. After being banned from the city, he actually showed back up in the Dreaming City during a celebration. He claimed to have changed and wanted repentance. But unfortunately, this was all a ruse. He was able to enrapture a dozen of Awoken and beguile them into jumping from the cliffs of the Gardens of Asila, which is a certain place the Guardians can go visit in the Dreaming City today. Nonetheless, Azarim pretty much convinced them all to jump to their death, and I'm talking dozens of Awoken. And he fed on their deaths, not specifically eating their corpses, but the fact that he was able to mesmerize them. He fed off of that. And he was able to escape his fate, at least from the punishment of the Awoken. Which was certainly unfortunate. Now, thankfully, his fate would not last very long because, according to reports from the Great Ahamkara Hunt, his fate was sealed at the hands of Ikora Ray and Waning. Anyways, so let's go back to the history. That was the little bit about Azarim. So, the Ahamkara lived in a unstable peace with the Awoken monarchy. Now, there was one Ahamkara in particular that was very special to the Awoken monarch, Marasav, and we'll get to her because her existence and her story is probably the most well gleaned in terms of any known Ahamkara. But we'll get to hers in a second. Before we get to hers, we will discuss now the unfortunate decision. So, Marasav took this one Ahamkara by the name of Riven of 1,000 Voices and locked her up. Why she would decide to lock up Riven was actually arguably ingenious, but also kind of deceitful decision made. She locked Riven up, and then ordered the people of the last city who she was in contact with at this point to hunt down all the other Ahamkara, noting how dangerous they were, and offering them weapons and armor to proceed with said hunt. The people of the last city, various guardians, hunted down and slaughtered all the Ahamkara. Now, this, in all honesty, it was I was not awake, or I was not revived at the point of the great Ahamkara hunt. I glean it from the history books. From what I can gather, from a protectionary standpoint, and to prevent humans and the people of the last city from potentially dooming the city by making wishes with Ahamkara, the decision was smart in a way. It was certainly unfortunate because I do not appreciate any species getting put to the grinding wheel, but it was a decision that probably had to be done in the sake in the name of the last city and for the safety of those in it. Now, a lot of guardians participated in it, and a lot of guardians unfortunately made wishes. One of those people.
We Cabal cannot really, I guess, say that it's not morally right for us to wipe out a species when it is very, very clear in our records, and still what we do today is we conquer, and if we do not find the species useful, we take you out permanently.
Correct. And I'm sure that the Cabal probably could have found a use for the Ahamkara, but unfortunately with paracausal magic that's able to warp reality...
I'm not saying that Empress Keitel wouldn't do that, but I'm probably going to assume, and don't mind my sound of heresy, but possibly Callus might have a better chance at knowing how to do that.
Certainly.
Keyword, might.
It's exceedingly hard to capture and... It is exceedingly hard to capture and maintain an Ahamkara. Just ask Marasav, because... and I'll explain Riven in a bit, because controlling Riven was certainly an interesting task when given that very hard to interact with a being that will just take any desire that you have and immediately turn it back on you. Anyways, the Great Ahamkara Hunt happened. There are very many notable participants, including Shax, Eris Morn, Ikor Ray, Wei Ning, Zavala, I think I saw in there. The first ever Hunter Vanguard by the name of... why am I forgetting her name? Oh, I feel so silly.
It seems like you have a lot of people in your history to keep track of, Jario.
Yes, it's certainly interesting. I'm trying to remember here. And I feel exceedingly silly. All right, here is a list. I finally was able to pull up a list of all members who participated in the Great Ahamkara Hunt. The members of the Ahamkara Hunt would include Madahi. I don't know who that. Zur Ido, Takeo 3, Galita Tuyet, Praetus Kabir, and Pahanin. Very, very ominous. Shinobu and Nadia, Lufang and Oros, who were members of the Sunbreakers, Lady Ephraty and Lord Saladin, Tallulah Fairwind, who was the first ever Hunter Vanguard, she would perish at the hands of an Ahamkara. And her friend Caliban 8, who would eventually turn into the next Hunter Vanguard. Lord Shax, Wei Ning, Eris Morn, Ikora Ray, Lord Timur, and Lord Kovalance. This was, by the way, the Great Ahamkara Hunt was done before the fall of the Iron Lords. Lord Timur and Kovalance are, if I'm not correct, Timur and Kovalance are Iron Wolves, which was the second generation of Iron Lords. But yes, many Guardians participated. We will go over one of the notable members, another notable member of the Ahamkara species. This one was specifically an Ahamkara who died during the Great Hunt. But this one was very interesting. Its name was Hefend. Hefend was a male Ahamkara who, after being slain by Lord Shax during the hunt, his essence, locked away in his bones, would actually befriend a warlord by the name of Naeem. So it's certainly interesting. After Shax destroyed Hefend, who, by the way, killed Shax 14 times before Hefend went down. Shax placed the remains of Hefend in a Dark Age castle. And eventually, the warlord Naeem would come to befriend Hefend. Unfortunately, fortunately, the friendship between the two was certainly unnatural, because similar to Tyrannus, Hefend tried its best to wish positively, despite having eventually having a negative repercussion in time. But Naeem used Hefend to, and its associated wish magic, to help the members, help villagers within the European Dead Zone, the EDZ. And they came to form a friendship of sorts. Unfortunately, the House of Kings, a group of the Fallen, would come to seize the castle, which Naeem and Hefend's essence inhabited. Naeem would unfortunately perish, and Hefend would kind of just sit in the castle by himself. So, hundreds of years later, and this will be a very quick overview of a event that happened in which the young wolf and two of their compatriots stormed said castle. They had found that Hefend had actually taken to the castle, bent them to his will, had his own spirit inhabit a physical form, that being a taken chimera, a blighted avatar, as you will. And the Scorn, who are the remnants, or who became the Scorn from the remnants of the House of Kings, they okay, I'm trying to get my timelines right here. I'm sorry. The Scorn became the Scorn from the House of Kings. The House of Kings, who are now the Scorn, who had the castle under wraps, were then, I guess, attacked by the Taken. And Fikrul sent his people to the castle to kind of take control over the bones of this wish dragon. Unfortunately, both Fikrul's plan was halted, and the young wolf and their compatriots were able to go in and pretty much put the bones to a sort of rest. And by extension, Name's wish, her final wish, for vengeance against the House of Kings, now the Scorn, was fulfilled. So very, very, very interesting story of an Ahamkara befriending a human. Rest in peace to Heffend and Name. Anyways, back to our story. For the great Ahamkara hunt, all the Ahamkara at this point had been defeated and destroyed and killed, with the exception of 2. There was only 2 Ahamkara left. Both of them have their stories intertwined. Those being Riven of 1,000 Voices and Taranis, Maid of Riven. Do you have any comments?
When it comes to those two, I mean, I guess I can't really judge someone for love.
What, between Name and Heffend, or...
Well, I'm talking about Riven and the
and
other...
Taranis.
Yeah, and Taranis. The other two, I'm not so sure how to feel about them since I don't know them personally.
Their story is very cool and very interesting. At a time where Ahamkara had every reason to hate humans and guardians, the warlord Name and befriended
To be
one.
fair, didn't the Wish Dragons kind of F around and find out, as they say?
In a sense, yeah. But at the end of the day, this was
Can't
all
really blame
the...
your food for fighting back.
At the end of the day, the Great Ahamkara Hunt was enacted not solely for the fact that they posed a threat to the last city. There was a second purpose. Queen Morasov locked Riven of 1,000 Voices up in the Awoken Keep in the Dreaming City. Now, this was done to make sure that she had, or at least she thought, she would have the last known Ahamkara in her existence, giving her an edge over potential threats. A secret weapon, as it were. Then she...
Everyone having a secret weapon nowadays.
She used this to... After locking Riven up, she ordered the rest of the Ahamkara to be killed. The only other Ahamkara who escaped death was Taranis, who used a garden, a place where he and Riven would often go. Specifically, a pocket of the Black Garden under a beautiful tree. This was a sanctuary for Riven and Taranis, who had met before Riven was locked up. And they fell in love with each other. Taranis found Riven to be fascinating and quite whimsical in a sense, whereas Riven found Taranis to be...
Whimsical?
That's one way to put it. This was before she went all crazy, because eventually Riven would go crazy in a sense. Taranis was... Riven saw Taranis and was fascinated by the fact that he kind of just... He didn't grant wishes that came to bite people in the ass. He just granted wishes, which made him unique and special. And this would make them fall in love with each other. Now,
How sweet.
with time, before she was locked up, they used each other because they can... Ahamkara can use each other without necessarily kind of killing each other. Because when 2 dragons use each other, they're feeding off of each other, and it's like equivalent exchange. So it's not deadly to either of them. So they both
I
wished
see.
together, and they wished for a clutch of eggs. So very, very sweet, very, very sweet story. Unfortunately, this story does not have a happy ending, as most love stories in our universe do
Every
not.
story we have talked about has zero happy ending half the time.
There's a little hope at the end, but the fate of both of those members is very sad. Anyways, after Riven was locked up, they could only talk to each other in, what was the metaphorical way that they stated?
Telepathically?
In the space between the stars? Yeah, telepathically would be a good way. They were able to still communicate with each other, but it was certainly not the same. Now, going more so to Riven, Marasov had to be careful when it came to Riven, specifically using Riven's power to ensure the continued success of the Dreaming City and the Awoken people. So she created a Wall of Wishes, a way to communicate wishes without communicating directly with the Wish Dragon and potentially risking being, I guess, destroyed by her own wishes. Very ingenious by Marasov. Unfortunately, Riven actually saw it as ingenious as well, but kind of lamented over the fact that she was still stuck. Remained being the pet for quite some time. And then, one event changed everything for Riven. The Battle of Saturn, aka the arrival of Oryx into our system. After the Battle of Saturn was lost by the Awoken, done specifically on purpose, I may add. They were actually intending to lose. Or at least they accomplished their goal before losing. That being destroying the fleet surrounding the Dreadnought. Anyways, after Marasov was defeated and the Techians were thrown into the Ascendant Plane, as Marasov was, Oryx was able to infiltrate the Dreaming City, and more importantly, the keep. The keep that Riven was locked behind, or locked inside. Oryx and Riven talked, and Oryx made a wish. He wished to take Riven, and Riven granted this. Unknown to Oryx, when Riven became taken, she actually retained her independence. When Oryx takes somebody, and when you become taken, your will becomes that of whoever took you. In the case of Riven, when she was taken, her will did not leave. Her will was still her own. So she became an independent taken entity who would plan and scheme a way out. It was after this time, after this folly, unfortunate as it is, that Tyrannus lost contact. He was able to... It appears that somehow he was able to glean according to this, he was actually in the Dreaming City itself when he found out that Riven had been taken, and that some of their eggs had also been taken. Not all of the eggs were kept at the sanctuary in the Black Garden. Some of them had unfortunately been taken. Exceedingly sad. And this is gonna get kind of sad for those who are very big on love and sacrifice. In order to ensure the survival of his species, and in order to protect the clutch, the uncorrupted clutch that he and Riven made, he granted his own wish to scatter all of the remaining clutch into the proverbial wind, sending them through planes of existence. Obviously, this cost him his life. He did unfortunately perish in this moment, but he bequeathed a bow to be found by somebody who would be able to enact his wish to keep the eggs safe. This bow would be discovered by the young wolf and would be known as Wishkeeper. Now, this is the end of Taranis, but not the end of the Ahamkara. Riven still existed at this point. Before Riven, while the Dreaming City was still under attack, still infected by Taken energy, Riven was approached by another of the Hive Pantheon, specifically Savathun, who made another wish. This would be actually Riven's technical final wish, because it would only go into effect after Riven's death. Shortly after this moment, the Riven would attempt to escape imprisonment. She would trick Uldren Sov by disguising herself in a weird cosmic way. She would use her abilities and paracausality powers to disguise herself as Mara Sov, convincing Uldren Sov to free her from the keep. And unfortunately, he would be able to free her, thus causing serious problems in the Dreaming City. Problems that Petrovenge and the Young Wolf and their compatriots would end up stopping. They would end up cleansing and helping the old Techians, the Tech Witches, as some Guardians like to call them, as well as destroying certain Taken threats before facing off against Riven, Riven of 1,000 Voices, who had been taken at this time. The Guardians were able to defeat Riven, pull her heart out, and cleanse it, in a sense. This obviously killed Riven, or at least her physical body. Obviously, she still was able to live on as a corporeal spirit that inhabited certain areas of the Dreaming City, as well as her still beating heart. And the final wish was enacted. A curse on the Dreaming City that would repeat over and over and over again every 3 weeks. The major pieces for this was the wish to make it come true, that being Riven herself. The mastermind behind it all, Savathun. The one who would actually lay the curse down, Dul Karu. And the being suspected of keeping the loop going. That being Kuria, the Dreaming Mind, who was taken at that point and under the control of Savathun. And this would be relatively the end of or at least the suspected end of the Ahamkara. At least for a time. Several years passed, and as the threat of the Witness was looming, specifically after the Witness had tore a wound in the Traveler and stepped inside, the Guardians had to use whatever they could to get in there. So, with the help of Mara Sov, they were able to summon the corporeal spirit of Riven, who in turn promised to help them and help fulfill the wish to get the last 15th wish in order to get inside the Traveler to stop the Witness. But, as it is with all Ahamkara, there was a bargain. The bargain being that we had to safely procure and extract the uncorrupted clutch of Ahamkara eggs. The Guardians and the Young Wolf did so. They were able to find the clutch and return them to Riven. A couple of them were taken in the process, but were cleansed almost immediately. After the eggs were secured and put in a safe place, Riven was able to help by sending Crow into the Pale Heart, and thus allowing Marasav and the young wolf and their compatriots to eventually be able to enter the Pale Heart and stop the Witness. So, by some weird way of thinking about it, Riven simultaneously has... Riven's influence over our solar system has been quite extensive, whether that be the ruination of the Dreaming City, all the way up to the defeat of the Witness. It would not have been possible without Riven. Anyways, do you have any comments? Salem?
Well, I find this tragic in my personal opinion.
Which part?
Well, not only Riven and her mate, but when it comes to the eggs and the future plans just in case. Imagine going through all that work to keep your eggs safe just for them to already have a plan of being disposed of.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, when the eggs hatch, which I don't know if they have or not, again, I am not really filled in on that.
Right. And
There's already a plan for another great Ahamkara hunt when the time needs it. So imagine going through all that work, all that trouble, to get these eggs, to make sure they're safe, to continue on your legacy, basically, just for a plan to wipe them out. Already, planned to be taken motion when needed.
So, that would be... So, the idea of a second grade Ahamkara hunt was only talked about briefly. Now, here's the interesting part from my perspective, or at least, well, before I put my perspective on it. The eggs, the remaining Ahamkara eggs, are not known to us. Riven hid them. Meaning they will hatch, and new Ahamkara will spread. Which is actually a good thing in my mind. It's making sure that the species goes on.
I see it as a good thing, but I understand the caution to it.
And of course, there's always caution, because they could take after all the other Ahamkara, including Riven.
They could. I just hope they aren't as bad as that one sadistic Ahamkara.
Correct.
Ugh.
But there's also the hope. And that's, I guess, something very interesting with the story at the end of the Ahamkara's tale and their history. Hope. Their father, the Clutch's father, was Tyrannus, an Ahamkara that was able to grant wishes without negative connotation or negative consequence.
Maybe they'll be like their father,
which is the hope.
Or as cunning as their mother.
It was stated that the only thing we can hope for is that they learn of of both of their parents and take after their father. At least some of them do.
Maybe.
Which is it's certainly very hopeful and sweet that Tyrannus was able to hopefully instill, or hopefully his will is instilled upon his children. And we get Ahamkara in the future who are able to grant wishes without having to necessarily twist them into brutal lessons on, not making deals with people who need to stab you in the back to get to feed, right? It's certainly an instance of, making sure
I guess you could say, unironically, I wish I met this Ahamkara.
A lot of people do. I certainly, when I discovered the existence of Tyrannus, I tried to do as much research as I could. he seemed to be quite an interesting and kind
wonder
Ahamkara.
if people who wished on Taranis, I wonder if they ever shared their stories of encountering him.
If I am not correct, and I could be wrong, I do believe that a Cabal actually wished upon Taranis, or Taranis at least overheard a wish of a Cabal on Mars.
Oh,
Though
really?
I could be incorrect. I would have to. I'm sure that we can. I would give.
I'm not so sure myself.
I'd be willing to give Taranis his own piece one day and share my more deep in-depth thoughts about Taranis and his history. But this is more so about the Ahamkara as a species, not specifically. And sure, we can mention members of the Ahamkara, but this is not specifically about Taranis as a whole. Anyways. So, what is the legacy of the Ahamkara? There are plenty of Ahamkara bones that you can come into contact with. Plenty of them. And plenty of weaponry and armor that has been left behind. As for armor that the Guardians can wear, and artifacts that can be gleaned, stuff including the Ahamkara scale, the bones of Ao Hunter boots, the claws of Ahamkara Warlock gauntlets, the knuckles of Ao, which was a consumable item a long time ago, the scales of Ao, which was a Titan artifact, the sealed Ahamkara grasps, a Hunter gauntlet, the skull of Dire Ahamkara, a Warlock helmet, and the young Ahamkara spine, Hunter gauntlets. These are the armor pieces that heavily feature bones from Ahamkara. Now, there was a weapon that was discovered that was specifically made from pieces of, or at least made from the, made of the essence of an Ahamkara. This being an exotic fusion rifle by the name of 1,000 Voices. It's certainly a very powerful weapon and a very iconic and it's a weapon that lives in infamy, and its appearance is certainly horrifying to some, considering that it looks to be made almost entirely out of bone. That weapon can only be gleaned from special treasures located within the Last Wish raid. Breaking the fourth wall a little bit here. And before we end the episode, I would like to break the fourth wall. Hi, Josh here, and obviously you want to say hi, Addie, real quick, because there's one more note I would like to discuss. Or not. I don't know where Addie went. Hi.
Go on.
This last note, it still pertains to the Ahamkara. This is not like a, whatever, what have you. This actually pertains to the Ahamkara.
Okay.
But it only makes sense to talk about it as we're not in character, because the Ahamkara are actually known to break the fourth wall. They are one of the only beings in our universe that seemingly has knowledge that they are themselves within a video game. Which is also horrifying. In the lore tab for the Skull of Dire Ahamkara, it actually speaks directly to the player, not the Guardian who's wearing the helmet, but the player. And the claws of the Ahamkara suggest that they're trapped in a prison behind a screen, like a video game screen. It is certainly very scary to know that these paracausal beings know that they are in a video game. That is horrifying. there were several notes of them trying to escape that reality as well, where they want to escape and get out and come to our universe. That is also terrifying. So Ahamkaras are certainly this very, very complex beings who not only can grant wishes, transcend death, shapeshift into anything that they want, grant wishes without actually being told the wish, but they break the fourth wall and conceptualize the fact that they are themselves within a video game. That's horrifying. That is scary.
Be afraid.
Which makes the Ahamkara, and like I just want to, like, on the surface they're like, oh, it's a crazy little wish dragon, but like Ahamkaras are scary. When you think about it from the perspective of a guardian, having a being that is just as powerful as you, clearly wants to feed on your wishes and desires while making them tend to bite you in the ass to the point that you die or suffer a terrible fate, who are able to shapeshift into any form they want, transcend death itself, and understand that they themselves are paracausal, and in fact, not only paracausal, but stuck within a virtual world. Like in any other context, that'd be horrifying. That's scary. A being with that much power is scary. There are only
Shiver me timbers.
There are only, to put it this way, there are only two other beings or groups of beings that understand they're in a video game. There's only two others besides the Ahamkaras. That would be the Nine and Savathun. Those are the only other beings who understand where they are. So to have Ahamkaras not only talk to the Guardians in their death, but talk to us, the players, it is certainly an interesting and frankly terrifying concept. I can't imagine the repercussions if they were to come into the real world somehow. But that's just my take. Addie, you have anything to comment?
All I know is that it's like the only thing I could really comment about in-game Ahamkara. I think Riven's voice actor did a wonderful job portraying like a mother's heartbreak. Because I don't think like any character who sounded that upset in my life over one egg got semi-corrupted and she lost it. And I was going to be in tears because of how heartbroken she sounded. So props to the voice actor of Riven. That was beautiful work.
The VA for Riven is Deborah Cardona.
Well, props to her.
Indeed. Very, very much.
That was a wonderful, wonderful piece of work during that entire Season of the Wish. Sure, I didn't play Season of the Wish like constantly, just straight up because I had other things to do, and also, I had a job at the time. But when I did have the chance to like finally pick up and do the seasonal missions, which Bungie, bring that back or your player base is going to die. That was a wonderful, wonderful story, and props to the voice actor. It's also, I guess, good to see a more wholesome instead of really weird side to Uldren and Marasol's relationship, because again, I was never around during Forsaken. I started during Season Haunted, but when I was shown cutscenes and clips of Forsaken, I was extremely weirded out by their relationship. I know that when Uldren was being manipulated, it wasn't really exactly the real Mara, but still, that was extremely weird.
And don't get it wrong, their relationship is still weird. Do not get it mixed up. Their relationship is weird outside of the whole Riven thing. But yeah, I could see their people being a little bit confused as to their relationship, only seeing the cutscenes
Yeah, guys,
from
they're
Forsaken.
siblings. They're siblings, by
They
the way.
are siblings, so it is weird.
They're siblings, and their relationship is very... I'm not trying to, like, seem weird or just chalking it down to straight what I'm gonna say, but their relationship just always seemed weirdly incestuous, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to just chalk it down to just incestuous, but I have 4 brothers, and me and my brothers have always been close, but never in our fucking lives have we ever acted like that towards one another.
Right. Some other fun facts to know about Riven before we end the episode, because we'll do some fun facts.
Okay, fun facts.
So first off, despite the fact that Ahamkara can, or just not even more so Riven, but just Ahamkara in general, while Ahamkara are able to shapeshift, they do have specified sexes. There are males and females. Now, males can obviously shapeshift into a female form. That being said, it is very much
boys
defined.
exist in Ahamkara.
Yeah, they're very much defined as male, and they're very much defined as male and female. Riven is believed at this point to be the second largest raid boss. The only beings that are bigger than Riven, or the only being that is bigger than Riven, is the Witness itself. And then the other raid bosses that are similar but smaller in size would be Argos, the Planetary Core, Oryx, the Taken King, and the boss from Desert Perpetual, whose name I can't remember. Another fun fact: there is at least I think there's concept art out there as well, but at least it's described that Riven was actually small enough to, at one point, was small enough to curl itself around Morozov's neck like a pet, which I find kind of cute.
I find that cute and also kind of funny. Just imagine just a little Ahamkara just sitting on her shoulders.
Yeah. Naming schemes for Ahamkara are very interesting. Now, Taranis, I don't know the naming scheme for that, but Riven herself was named herself Riven due to the Riven people of the Awoken. Now, what that means is, or what Riven, people being Riven, means there's like a divide. At that time in the Awoken people, some of them decided to stay in the Distributary where the Awoken were born, whereas the others went to the Soul System outside of the Distributary in the Dream City. So very much like very named after Riven, the Riven people of the Awoken. So, and another thing, Riven's the first enemy to become a vendor. She was technically a vendor in Season of the Wish. Very good season, by the way. Love the weapons, love the theming for the armor and the weapons from that season. Trying to think of like any other big notes about Ahamkara. Back in D1, people used to think the flying creatures above Venus' sky were Ahamkara, but they're just batadactyls. So, yeah. And the last thing of note, I guess, and we'll discuss this more when we get to the Sword Logic episode. They use the phrase "oh blank mine." This is when beings use the phrase "oh blank mine," which is used by various beings, including the Worm Gods, Callus, and the Ahamkara. It's a possessive.
And these are very possessive people.
So, well, it's how do I explain?
Well, I'm just saying it like callous in general when I say
Right.
that mostly.
And so when I say possessive, it's like a domination phrase. It's certainly, and I'll go more into
We gotta
that.
assert our
with-
dominance. Oh, Jorio mine.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's certainly exceedingly. It's not only used by the Ahamkara, it's used by pretty much a lot of different people, but it's certainly interesting, and we will get into that in a later episodes, probably specifically the Sword Logic episode, because it does pertain more so to the Sword Logic than anything else. So yeah, I think that's gonna have to be it for the Ahamkara stuff. Riven and Tyrannus will each get their own episodes. I don't think Heffend, we might go over Heffend at some point, but Azarim obviously will not be getting his own episode because what we've discussed about now is pretty much all the stuff that we have. There might be further episodes later. Obviously, Tyrannus, Riven, Last Wish, and the Great Ahamkara Hunt itself, because we pretty much just went over the basics for that, but they'll all get their own episodes, dedicated episodes in time. Anyways, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to go, if you are watching this on YouTube, you can also go listen to us on Spotify. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can also go watch us on YouTube, the Destiny Lore Emissary Logs on both platforms. As for our individual socials, if you want to listen to my meanderings on TikTok, you can follow me at Jorio11 Lorekeeper, or if you want to see me stream and all of the stuff associated with that, you can find me at Jorio Gaming 00 on also on TikTok, but also on Twitter, Discord, and Kick. That's where I stream.
And you can find me on TikTok, addy.h.art. And all my links will be on my account. And if you need my Discord for any purposes whatsoever, you can DM me personally on TikTok, or you can reach out to us on our email.
Correct. Yeah. As for upcoming episodes, the next episode after this one, the upcoming episodes are. Next episode is Shadows in Midnight, which we will be re-going over and covering more in depth Midnight Coup and the members of the Shadows of Callus. After that, we will be discussing Nezarec, specifically Destiny's Freddy Krueger. And then after that, we will be discussing Loom and...
It would have been kind of funny if we did that episode on Halloween.
What? Destiny's Freddy Krueger? I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to wait that long. I'll be honest with you.
I know you don't want to wait that. I know. I'm just saying it would have been funny if we did that on Halloween.
We could do a Halloween. We could do a Halloween episode specifically with Festival of the Lost, since it's more
the headless ones.
Yeah, since that's more on theme. So that would be a good episode for that. But yeah, the upcoming episodes, we got Midnight Coup, Shadows of Callus, Nezarec, Premier Loom and the Baron Imperium, and the Vex. So stay tuned for those. And I guess that's gonna be it. You want to do your outro?
We are Cabal. We eat the mountains and we drink the seas. And we will conquer the stars. And I'll see you all on the battlefield. Good night.
See you Starside Guardians.
Cue the outro.
Oh, actually, hold up. See you Starside. Oh, Guardians mine. There you go. All right, cue the outro. Just cue the outro.